was in a little movie called Free Guy. A lot of people come up to me these days and ask me, Jack, how did you become the A-lister actor celebrity that you are, being able to manage a YouTube channel as well as a top-tier acting career in Hollywood? How do you do it? And I just simply answer that I'm just a humble guy from Ireland who just tries his best every single day. So earlier this year, in case you haven't noticed, because I was screaming it from the rooftops when it happened, I was in a little movie called Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds and Jodie Comer, and it was directed by Sean Levy? I'm sorry, Sean, I don't know how to pronounce your name. You spelled Sean wrong, so. And I realized that I talked a lot about when the movie came out and that I was in it and that people should go see it, but I never really sat down and talked about how that actually happened, how I got into the movie, what it was like to do it, and what it was like kind of afterwards. So let me take you back to the dewy slopes of yesteryear and the year before. I can't remember what year we recorded this in. It was a long time ago. The movie was supposed to come out last year and it only came out this year. We had something happen in the middle of all of that. I don't know what it was called, but it delayed everything. But I was sitting down, recording stuff that I normally do, you know, sitting here. Well, I was actually in my old house, just sitting down, recording videos, you know, classic Jacksepticeye. And I got an email. I think my manager messaged me about it as well. And I got an email at the same time. And they were just like, hey, I'm Sean Levy and I'm directing Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds. And my manager was like, yeah, they wanted you to read lines for this movie. And I'm like, what? I thought if I ever got to be in a movie for being a YouTuber, that it would be something awful. It would be something that no one would want to watch and that everyone would cringe at. And I would be sitting there being like, at least I got to be in it. But no, I had to start off my tremendous acting career by being in a big blockbuster Hollywood movie by Disney, starring Ryan Reynolds. I don't know how. Apparently they sat down and watched my videos and they went, this? Perfect. But I got really nervous, super scared. I thought that initially they gave me lines to read that I thought I was going to have to audition when I had this call with the director. And that didn't happen at all. But I was sitting there being like, okay, I know the lines, I practiced them, and I like had the script in front of me, and I thought like, okay, they want to see how I can act, how I can really emote. Look at my range. I like really practiced how to cry on command. Failed miserably. I can't do that. And then I got onto the call and they were like, yeah, we just want you to be yourself in the movie and just do what you normally do. And I was like, oh, well, that's easy. I do that. I'm doing it now. The director was super nice. Sean is one of the most infectiously energetic people and charismatic, and he just sold me on the movie immediately. It could have been the most horrible thing in the world, and I would have been like, yeah, buddy, I'm on board. He made me so happy, and he was so enthusiastic about it and so passionate about it that it was kind of hard to say no to him, but it was a really big deal, and he was very nice to me. And I sat down with him and he asked me a few questions on like this scene about what we do on YouTube and what things are called. And I told him what a let's play was, and he wrote it down and he was like, I never heard that term before. And I was like, yeah, that's what we do. It's technically called a let's play, that we sit down and let us play like together. And he asked me a few questions about how to make it like not cringy. And you could really tell that they wanted to make it like accurate to what we do normally. And there's a bunch of video game movies out there that try too hard to not be a video game movie but wear its skin. And this, I think, was really smart because they made a video game from scratch that didn't exist in the real world, even though it's heavily inspired by games in the real world. But the fact that it wasn't a real game, so they didn't have to cater to anybody for it, I think really benefited them.
Dude, this is scary.
So fast forward a couple of months, the lines came in, he texted them to me. And it was so fun because I got to do it with no supervision. Because I had to sit here and do what I normally do every day, I got to just sit in my room at the old place and just kind of go over the lines over and over and over again. I paced back and forth in my living room, looking at my phone and reading them out loud and then reading them, trying to read it. I read it out loud and then I would try to read it without my phone, and then I would go back and like, okay, what did I miss? And then read it out loud and back and forth until I could get it in my brain. And it was like a paragraph that I had to read. And they told me that we'll swap between other people's perspective, because it wasn't just me in the movie. It was Ninja, Pokimane, and Laserbeam in the movie when we initially caught on, and then Dan TDM was added afterwards. And when we were reading it, I was like, okay, he'll just pick out whatever line I read here, and then others will read like the top line, I'll be in the middle, or someone else would be second and then fourth. Like, they'd just swap it around and pick whatever. So I just read out the whole thing, and I was practicing it over and over again. I was getting so scared. And then I just sat down at my computer like this. I had OBS open in front of me, looking at myself, being like, okay, how do I look? How do I act? How do I act like Jacksepticeye? What does Jacksepticeye do? And it's not until somebody's like, just be yourself and act like yourself. And it's like, what do I do? And I did the lines over and over again. I think I did like 10 different takes of it over and over again. I did like line by line, so in case they wanted to like punch in or out of particular lines. I did the whole paragraph back to back. I did it a bunch of different ways, cam collected, looking at the camera, looking away from the camera. And I was like, okay, I think I did it. It's done. I sent the video off to Sean, and he immediately got back and was like, this is marvelous. You're so good. And I was like, thank you, Sean. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm so scared. And he was super nice about it. He kept saying, like, you're so good at acting. These lines are amazing. We're so happy with them. And I was like, you're just saying that because you want me to feel good about myself, but I do, and thank you. And then I released the Chase short, the one about Chase Brody that I was in LA for. And I was so nervous about that. And then after that went up, a couple of hours passed, and then Ryan Reynolds himself DM'd me on Twitter. I know. Mega flex, and he was beyond nice. He's one of the nicest people ever, and he was messaging me being like, saw like what you did, and it was incredible, great acting, you're so good at this. And I was like, you're just saying that. In my head I was like, you're just texting everybody that, and they probably did, but it made me feel so good about what I had done. I was like, okay, they're happy with it. That's all that matters. I don't care if everybody else laughs at me, as long as they're happy with what I did. I know that I've done myself proud, and I was so excited about it. And then after that, I was riding high for ages. I was just like, yeah, nothing could touch me. I'm invincible, baby. And then a couple of months later, Sean had messaged me again. I was like, you were so good in it. We're actually going to give you more lines. So here's like 2 more paragraphs that you can say, or like a paragraph and a half. And I was like, oh my God. Yes, thank you. I'm so excited. I would love to be in it more. Of course I would. And I did the same thing again, went over the lines over and over again. This was like a longer section. I was like, okay, Sean, time to bust out the big guns. This is your acting prowess. Taking it so seriously. And I was like, okay, I gotta get this right. Oh, so scary. But I'm so glad that it went well. I'm glad that they were happy about it. I'm glad that when it went up, everyone, like, there was a couple of people obviously that were going to be like, oh, it's cringe that these YouTubers are in it. That's just inevitable. That's just the way we are perceived in the online world. But 90% of the people out there were incredibly kind about it, incredibly nice, said that we did a great job. It was so exciting to see us in the movie. And I got to see the movie early. They sent me like a private screening of it so that I could like see it for myself, for the people who were like in the movie, and that was nice. But I was watching it on like a laptop, and it had like Sean McLaughlin written all over the screen, so I couldn't record it and reproduce it because of copyright and all that. So I got to watch it early, and I was like, oh, there I am. Oh, that was so awesome. That was amazing. I'm so glad I got to be in that. And then I was like, okay, relax, watch the rest of the movie. And then I showed up again. I was like, what? That's so cool. And I was like, oh, that's the best thing that's ever happened. Oh, busted the fattest nut. And then I showed up again. I was so happy with it.
He's just resting.
In pieces. That man is dead.
He's so sleepy.
I was so incredibly nervous after watching that. Me and Evelyn got to watch it together. And she said some very nice things. She patted me on the back. She was very supportive. It was delightful. And then afterwards I was like, oh my God, I can't wait for people to see it. The movie's actually just really fun and really good. And it's like one of the best video game movies I've ever seen. And I was like, maybe I'm just being biased because I'm in it. I'll wait to see what other people think about it. And then the movie came out and people loved it, and it got great reviews all over. People said it was such a feel-good movie. And I got to go see it with friends here. I went to see it with like Felix and Marty and PJ and Sophie and Evelyn. We got to go see it in the cinema. And I was so nervous the entire time because now I knew when my lines were coming up. I knew when it was about to happen. And I was sitting there in the cinema being like, okay, first like third or so of the movie I can relax and hang out. And then when it was about to happen, I was like, I kind of like sank down in my seat and I was waiting for it to happen. And then the lines came up and I was like, oh God. And I was like looking around at everybody in the cinema and I was like, this is so weird. I'm not normally in the movies. I don't know if you guys knew that. I'm not normally in movies ever. As the lines were being said, I was like, oh God, oh God. And then all my friends turned to me and they're like, whoa, that was so cool. And I had the big sigh of relief and I was like, guys, don't worry, I show up again. But man, what a cool experience. And then as the movie was coming out, they were like, oh, do you want to do like the press junket for it? And I was like, hell yeah. I got to do stuff like that before with like meeting Ryan for Deadpool and meeting Tom Holland and them for Spider-Man and The Rock and Kevin Hart for Jumanji. I was like, I'd love to interview people. Like, it's only over Zoom, but it would still be really fun to do. And then they're like, oh no, you're being interviewed because you're in the movie. I was like, what? That's so much easier. I don't have to come up with any questions. All I have to do is talk about myself and the movie. And that's easy. Talk about myself all day. But I feel just so fortunate that that's even a thing that happens in my life. And then being able to be in the movie like that is one of the most remarkable things I've ever done in this career. And way, way, way beyond what I ever thought was possible. You know, when people always ask that question, like, when you started YouTube, did you ever think you'd be here? It's like, obviously not. And I keep thinking about me in the cabin when I started off making YouTube videos as this like shy, timid little man of early 20s, and then seeing where it's come to now is just, it's mind-blowing. I need to remind myself of that more often. When you get like tied up in like the numbers of it all and what am I doing? What do I play? And oh, this isn't doing well. And oh, am I becoming irrelevant? Oh no. Like all of that stuff, it just means nothing. And it's everybody's support and everybody watching at home and that kind of thing that means so much more. It's one of those things, it's cool to be able to do it and like, even for like my own selfish reasons to just be able to do it and be in something like that and kind of like, yay, I did it. But to share it with everybody that watches my content as well, who's seen me go from that guy in the cabin to then moving to Athlone and then moving to Brighton in my other house, now being here and being on that journey the whole way. And then going to a movie and seeing me in it and seeing people be like, man, I'm so proud of you. You've come so far. That meant a lot to me. I got off track. I meant to say when I was tweeting about it, Ryan messaged back and tweeted that, oh, people are going to be so excited to see you as Qbert in the movie. And I remember for the longest time, I was credited as Qbert on Google for Free Guy. I wonder if it's changed. No, Jacksepticeye as Qbert is still on Google if you search Free Guy cast. And what's really fun is that my name is spelled wrong in the movie. If you watch, I think it's the first scene where I show up, the URL at the top, because it's like my face. We could probably bring up an image of it actually. It's my face and like the comments and a live stream and everything happening. But at the top in the URL, I think it says jacksepticeye. And I think that that's delightful as well. People were like, oh no, that's so sad. I'm like, that's amazing. That's another little anecdote that I get to talk about. I'm Qbert and my name is spelled wrong in it. I think I had to cut my hair for it as well. There was something about it that they were like, oh, your hair was different when you did this. So if you could get your hair to match that again. I'm like, luckily I didn't shave my beard or like cut my hair too short and have to wait for it to grow out. But anyway, that was it. I just wanted to talk about it because I never have. And people ask me a lot of questions all the time. Like, did you get to improv or did you have any lines that you had to say? Like, yes, I did. I had to say lines. I got to improv a little bit about it and some of those made it in. But it was just to kind of like make the lines in my own voice. But one of the most cool experiences that I've ever gotten to do as part of this career. And if I never got to do anything like that again, I'm so glad that I did get to do it. This sounds like the most cliche YouTuber video ever, but I actually mean it. I'm not just saying phony words to blow smoke up your asses, but I really am appreciative of it. And everybody who asked me to be in Free Guy and the fact that I got to do that, so cool. I hope I get to do something like that again. But I'm just grateful that it happened at all.